Welcome to Growing Older, Living Younger, the podcast that will help you discover your personal roadmap to staying healthy, happy, and vibrant as you age. With your host, international speaker, author, and dance and doc extraordinaire, Dr. Gillian Lockitch.
Welcome to the Podapalooza 2025 edition of Growing Older, Living Younger, the longevity podcast that empowers you to take control of how you age so that you can age youthfully to live younger longer. I'm Dr. Gillian Lockitch, your host. In this episode, we're diving into the powerful theme of finding and using your voice to change the world. With me today is Mannette Antill, a voice empowerment mentor, award-winning actor, teaching artist, and former attorney. How interesting. Mannette helps courageous women, political change makers, thought leaders, and social justice advocates find the full power of their voices. Trained in methodologies from the world's leading acting conservatories, Mannette blends artistry, advocacy, and presence to inspire authentic and powerful communication that transforms. So, Mannette, welcome to the show. I'm delighted to have you here.
I am really joyful to be here because my own history is I just turned 74. My own mother was very active and powerful in her whole life. And it's a message that is so critical, and I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so let our audience hear a little bit about your journey. What led you from law to voice empowerment?
So I'll tell you just real quickly. Through a discovery that I made along my journey of life, I was led to remember an incident when I was about 4 years old, when my mother looked at me with that glare that she got from my grandmother. My grandmother said she could stop their children in her tracks with a glare, her lies, right? And she looked at me and she said, "Mannette, lower your voice."
Oh.
You know, I was a little Southern girl. Little Southern girls weren't supposed to have loud, powerful voices, right? But when that glare, you know, my mother's, they say the eyes are the windows to the soul, they just kind of shut closed. And hit her back. So I used my father's humor. I said, "Is this low enough, Mother?" Right? And kind of held my breath. Yes. Well, that was not the only time that happened. "Mannette, lower your voice." And so it became a little bit of a game. "Is this low enough, Mother?" And I'm going to show you, this is the voice that I use today. This became my voice.
Oh.
I took my voice here because I was told to lower my voice.
I didn't know you could.
And so for many, many years, it's not an unpleasant voice, right? It's a little breathy, however, and it's not powerful. I did kind of quote powerful things. I ran for offices and this other thing. I did theater. I played the flute and I danced as I was growing up. But I graduated from high school in 1969. Sisterhood was powerful. Civil rights was opening. And I decided I needed to do something more important than theater and that kind of stuff. And so I worked in the legislature. I met Sarah Weddington, and I became a lawyer. And I first was a prosecutor of civil fraud. And then I went into in-house. I worked for both a Fortune 500 and Fortune 50 corporation. I established my own law firm, and then I became a media spokesperson for a national civil rights organization. But during that time, I had children, and a couple of my children were neurodivergent, and I pivoted for a while to use my advocating skills and to develop and take care of them. And when I decided to go back into the quote world, that had changed me also. And, law is conflictual. They call it an adversary system, right? And I did not want to go back to that. And I returned to the theater. And when I did, I had to go to drama class, right? And what they said, I have this voice down here. And they said to me, Mannette, we think you have some talent, but we can't hear you. And actor work is voice work. And I had to learn to bring my voice here. I had to bring it back up out of my throat. I had to bring it here so it could be heard, so it could resound, so it could be powerful. Right. And what it made me realize is during those years when I was practicing law and I would be in a corporate boardroom and I would say something and a minute, 2 minutes later, a man would say the exact same thing. And they'd say, oh, such a great idea, Joe. And you'd say, that's what I just said. Right. So I know there was some misogyny in there in the 70s, 80s. But I also learned that my voice wasn't serving me at that time.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you and tell you my version of what happened. Two things happened to me. One, when I was a little kid, probably about 5 or 6, maybe 7, I one day had quite a nasty cold and cough, and family doctors made house calls in those days. I don't think people even have family doctors anymore. But the family doctor came over to see me, and he was really kind and very nice. And he said to me, oh my gosh, your daughter's voice, your voice is so husky. And he was implying that, because I obviously had an infection and a bit of a cold, but it inhibited me probably still does, from ever singing in public. Because as soon as I opened my mouth, all I could feel was that husky voice. And yeah, it was really, really, it had a powerful impact on me. And that was at 5. And the second story is I was at an exhibition one day, and a woman came up to me with some of her friends and said, hi, Jill, Dr. Jill, I'd like to introduce you to my friends. And then she turned to her friends and she said, I'm so overwhelmed by her because she is so powerful and assertive. And gosh, that had another impact of making me do exactly what you did, pull my voice in and really not want to be heard, because I didn't want people to think that I was being bossy and assertive and overconfident. So it's really interesting, the power of these little experiences. And, I find it amazing. And I'm so proud of you that you managed to overcome it through your acting. I would never have had the courage to appear on stage, especially not to try and sing.
Well, because one of the things that, my mother was training me for, and she was very well-intentioned. Women, she had her own, Southern women have their own power, but it can't be direct and it can't be confrontational, right? It has to be indirect. It has to be, you have to, let the people think they're making their own decisions and a little bit of but it's not, you're not supposed to have a strong presence. It's like people don't like pushy women, right? And so I'm sure she felt she was preparing me for a world that she knew very well. And a lot of us did get that message, but it didn't serve us in the world, that we can be assertive without being antagonistic. Mm-hmm. We can be powerful without being overwhelming and overbearing. They're not the same thing. And men are given positive strokes for having powerful, strong presence, right? And we need to learn to find our authentic expression. It doesn't mean we have to become or model ourselves like men, but we can find our own internal power and our own internal voice that we were sent into this world to use to accomplish the purposes that we are here for. Your voice. No one in the world, 8.1 billion people in the world, has your voice. They speculate no one in the history of the world has had your voice. It's like a snowflake, right? Just like you have fingerprints, you have a tongue print, your ear, the whorls of your ears, your vocal folds are the size of your thumbnail, not just a thumbnail, your thumbnail. So every part of ourselves, including our voice, is unique to us. And we have to find the way to make that voice heard and felt and make connections and touch people.
Sometimes the holdup is actually in our minds rather than anything else. I was just thinking, I used to chair a committee at the hospital where I worked, and there were basically 5 or 6 male department heads, maybe 2 female department heads, and most of these men, they were surgeons and all of that sort of thing, were sort of 6'2", tall, imposing. And I was a sort of 5'2", quiet sort of person. And it was a really interesting experience, that feeling of being so overpowered and overshadowed, and yet having to be heard in order to chair this. So I think you mentioned that you work with a number of women who are change makers and advocates. What would you say are the common blocks or fears that you see with them about speaking out?
Well, I think part of this is they don't want to be, we have this perception that women, if we are effective, if we are powerful, that we're pushy, right? That we're confrontational, that it's not appropriate, right, for us to be that, or we're going to be perceived in a way that is negative. We've also been told to lower our voice. We've also been given rewards for being a certain way. We're given, encouragement to be how we are, so that we're not given the opportunities or given the training. When men are out there doing the like, hey, 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 right? They use their voices, and we tend to pull back from that. With the various messages, like I was told, lower your voice, be quiet, don't push. But what I find, and this is neuroscience, the voice is created in the body. It has to be open. The breath has to be available. And when we connect here, when we connect this, obviously our thoughts are here, and you tell me, you're the doctor, but what I've turned told, we feel our emotions in our bodies. Mm-hmm. That's where we feel them. And the author Lesak, a big voice teacher, says the more we learn to feel things, the more we learn to feel. We say, that gave me butterflies in my stomach, right? Because that's where we feel excitement, anticipation, nervousness, laughter, flirt. We feel it here. We feel it, right, in our solar plexus. We say, that touched my heart. Oh, that touched my heart. We feel a warmth. We feel an openness. We feel a lift here when something touches my heart. But we also say, that got me in the gut. Right? That's where power is, but that's also where is. It's where writhing is. It's where tears are. But it's also where the power to push through something comes from the gut. But this is where we feel it. We feel it in our bodies. And we have tended in our time to cut off, to pull down and pull in and tighten and limit what we allow expression of and what we allow ourselves to feel, because sometimes we don't want to feel those feelings. And so voice work is body work. It's opening the breath. It's opening the body. It actually affects posture. When you learn to breathe properly, when you learn to connect here with this openness, it actually changes how one appears in the world, how one is seen in the world, how we move through the world.
Yeah. I have one small question for you. If somebody who's listening to us today wants to take just a small step to begin to find and use their own authentic voice, what is one small thing that anybody can use right now?
I would say one of the things I teach is something called why buzz, and it's moving the sound up here. So I'm just going to give you a little exercise, right?
Right.
And that's to say the consonant N. Can you just N? Can you feel the vibration in your nose?
Yes.
Put your hand here on the bridge of your nose.
Yeah.
Just feel it. You can go to If you don't feel this vibration when you speak, your voice is buried. So you have to find the pitch that brings that vibration into its fullest place.
It feels quite strong for me. So does that mean that my voice is not low?
Yeah, I mean, when you speak, it's just you can put your hand here as you speak and see that you consistently have this sense you feel, and it's also in your cheekbones, right? So you kind of feel here and here, and if you've got vibration, if your pitch, if you go too low, 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 you'll feel that vibration disappear. As you bring your pitch up, you don't want to, don't have to put it up here. No, you just don't want it down here, lower. You want to hear to the front. You want to have that sound in the toward the front, towards your teeth, so that you learn to feel that beautiful, rich, vibrating sound. And that's where your voice will have its most power and reach.
Wow. Well, Mannette, thank you so much for joining me today at Podapalooza. I really think your work is a powerful reminder that how we speak and what we say has the power to shape the world. So to my listeners, if you've been inspired, please share this episode and stay tuned for more powerful conversations coming from the Podapalooza 2025 edition of Growing Older, Living Younger. And you can find regular broadcasts of Growing Older, Living Younger on Apple and on Spotify and many other platforms.
Let me just say, Gillian, one of the things we sometimes start losing our voices as we get older, and we don't have to. We can create those strong, powerful voices all the way through the end of our life.
Thanks for tuning in to Growing Older, Living Younger. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, leave a rating and review and share it with your friends. Tune in every week to learn how you can change your aging at the cellular level to stay healthy, happy, and vibrant. Remember that in this podcast, we share information for educational purposes only, and the content does not provide medical advice. As you contemplate your own roadmap for healthy aging, be sure to discuss your intentions with your medical or other qualified, certified health practitioner. And until next week, dance every day.